Crowder is a Southerner with a very thick Southern accent, straight, married, has children, lives in Los Angeles, liberal, not religious, a huge LGBTQ plus community supporter, and regularly lampoons those that disagree with this unique combination of philosophy. So, of course, we thought it would be fascinating to talk to him. Trae Crowder, welcome to South Florida and Queer News Tonight.
Yeah, hey, thank you. Good to be here in person. We did the digital version, but now we're here.
Yes, I'm loving your accent. I said in the first go around, I'm from Southwest Virginia, and I had somewhat kind of an accent of yours, but I worked very hard to get rid of it, and you apparently just never decided to do that.
No, I always had a big chip on my shoulder about it because and I mean, I don't know, I may have not lost it regardless, but like I grew up in a lake town in rural Tennessee where, you know, Yankees would come down and take their boats out on the lake in the summertime. And it was very much a thing, like I'm sure it is in any tourist town, where it was like, oh, they look down on the locals. They think we're all idiots. They think whatever. So I kind of had that ingrained in my head from a very early age. And I always made really good grades and all this stuff. So I was always very defiant about like, hey, no, the way that I sound doesn't mean anything about how my brain works, you know, or whatever. So I think that's maybe why I mean, I never even entertained the notion to try to get rid of it.
Yeah,
you know?
and that's a great segue for us to start right at the top. So many unique things about you, all combined. You're like this complex stew of these different kinds of things. Many of them are contradictory. How did all of that happen? Explain to me how this of Trae Crowder developed.
I mean, I think, again, part of it was being like the smart kid in this tiny redneck town, very redneck town. Like my accent actually used to be a little bit thicker when I was growing up in Salina. And still, I got made fun of for talking proper because I just, you know, had words that had multiple syllables in them, and I, you know, maybe enunciated some of them a little better, and that was pretty much it. So, like, I was always different, and I was always very aware of that. And then as I got older, and my Uncle Tam, I'm very close to, I found out he was, like, my dad explained to me that he was gay when I was like 9 or 10 years old. And then I started picking up on things I hadn't before about like how the church is there anyway, or towards gay people, and I knew that also made me different, not agreeing with any of that for a good personal reason. And I just kind of always was a little bit of, I guess, a man without a country, but I still had all these elements of somebody who grows up there. I just didn't fit in with so much of it, and it's kind of just always been that way.
Trae, that's so interesting to me because the liberal Redneck Manifesto, I want to talk a moment about that, because when you put manifesto in a title, it's a declarative statement. Yeah. This is my manifesto, dragging Dixie out of the dark. So it's implying they're in dark ages, let's say, and I'm going to help drag them out. And it's based on stereotypes of Southerners, like you just said. It's based because I had the exact same situation, right, and I wanted more and pursued it. But in the South, we seem to be stereotyped that we don't want to do that, and that we're based in a lot of, especially rural communities, in ignorance. Was that your experience? It's we don't want to improve out of our ignorance? Well,
it's weird because, I mean, it was kind of my experience, but at the same time, and I didn't realize this until years after I left my hometown, apparently, from what I can tell, my hometown in Tennessee is like almost progressive by tiny Tennessee town standards. Because like
Wait, are we talking about Nashville?
No, Salina, Tennessee.
Oh, Salina.
Middle of nowhere. But like my wife is from a town called Waynesboro. I've met a bunch of friends over the years who were from equally tiny towns in Tennessee, and like the stuff they would tell me about their hometown would kind of shock me. Like, for example, like my mother-in-law told me once, and she wasn't trying to be mean, but she was just saying, she was like, oh, there's no gay people in Wayne County. She's like, we just don't have any. Yeah. And I was like, you probably do, or at a certain point they leave or whatever. Or like the racism I heard about from some of these other towns, that like I didn't really expect, I mean, there was racism there, but like when I was in high school, because we had a black community, and like saying the N word was a good way to get whipped, you know what I mean? Like get beat up in a fight. And so it just wasn't as prevalent in that way. And also my uncle and at least 2 other openly gay men were like prominent business owners in the community, and like nobody was throwing bricks through their walls or nothing like that. So, or through their windows. So, I mean, it felt very stereotypical in that way, but also like comparatively, I actually think my hometown is like maybe not so bad.
Not as bad.
For whatever reason, you know, but I was not aware of that at the time.
You know, it's interesting when you said about your wife's county and that there are no gay people in it. The other person that I have heard make the exact same statement is Vladimir Putin about Russia.
Right.
there's no gay people in Russia either.
We just don't have any.
They just
don't exist here somehow.
I've looked at a lot of your programs in YouTube. You're quite a YouTube celebrity. I read today you've got nearly 20 million cumulative views in YouTube now. I'm curious with the brand that you represent, Southern accent, agnostic, which is not anti-religious, liberal, redneck. You kind of sit in the hate sphere on both sides.
Yes.
What's that experience like in YouTube?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't get near as much hate as I used to when I first came onto the scene and went viral. There were a lot of people. I mean, I got a lot of hateful messages back then, and I'll still get some. But I think at a certain point, those people knew who I was and just didn't bother with watching my videos anymore or whatever. But it's like I said earlier, the man without a country thing has kind of been the story of my life. Like I'm definitely, you know, like people would think, oh, he's a liberal, so people in the South don't like that. Oh, he's a redneck, so people on the coast don't like that. So who does like this guy? Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
yeah.
There, you know,
your shows are selling out.
Yeah, no, there's a lot
of people that are liking
appeal to it. Yeah, exactly. But I can understand how at face value someone might think this dude is for no one. Yeah. But yeah, it's not true.
I also want to ask you about the thing that I just briefly explored the first time we talked. Then you up and move to Los Angeles, and to me that is one of the greatest contradictions because your accent in Los Angeles. I frankly, I have never talked to anyone in Southern California that has as deep a Southern accent as you have. What's that reaction to you like?
Well, it's funny because, yes, I will meet people who hear me talk, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Tennessee. And they're like, oh, I'm from Tennessee too. But they have no accent at all. So I'll meet other people from the South. Right. I never meet anyone who actually sounds like me.
Right.
And honestly, the most common reaction it gets really just from day-to-day people at, you know, the clerk, the cashier at CVS or the Uber driver or whatever, is that people like think it's fake, you know, or they're like skeptical of it, not in a distrusting way. And I don't know if it's because it's Hollywood and they think, oh, maybe he's an actor who's, you know, getting ready for an audition as a possum wrangler or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's what it is, but like typically, like, and they'll be nice about it. They'll say like, I really like that accent if it's real, if that's your real accent. And I'm like, yeah, it is. And then they're like, oh, well, that's cool. Yeah. People aren't usually.
Do you get rejection?
I mean, no one just says, oh, I don't trust you because of the way you talk. But like, you could tell that there are people who are like, yeah, I don't really want anything to do with this guy.